The fame of Ed and Lorraine Warren, known as the adorable Ghostbusters, has soared in 21st century pop culture. This rise is mainly due to the hugely popular Conjuring movie series, loosely inspired by their lives. Vera Farmiga portrays Lorraine and Patrick Wilson plays Ed. The franchise has also spawned successful spin-offs like Annabelle, centered around the Warrens' eerie doll, and The Nun, featuring a demonic entity from the previous films. Additionally, in 2009, the horror hit A Haunting in Connecticut and various best-selling books depict the Warrens as fearless defenders against the supernatural. However, not all of this is based on reality. Some might protest, not Ed and Lorraine. They were pure-hearted couple who battled evil across America in the 70s and 80s. But the truth is actually much less fantastical. Reports of their involvement in famous cases like the Amityville haunting were exaggerated. While their ability to exorcise spirits is doubtful, their talent for self-promotion was certainly undisputed. Now, don't get me wrong, I really did want to believe that the hauntings they worked on were all real, but the more I researched their life and work, the less convinced I really have become. Hello and welcome to The Haunted Estate, here with your host, me, Selena Myers. And before I spill the tea on Ed and Lorraine Warren, we have to sip the tea.
Why is it spicy?
Today, there are two contrasting images of the Warrens. In one portrayal, popularized by the Conjuring movies, they were depicted as a lovable, wise, brave couple anyone would admire. However, skeptics view them differently, seeing them as manipulative opportunists and fake psychics, exploiting vulnerable families for fame and fortune. The Netflix documentary, The Devil on Trial, explores this perspective, suggesting the Warrens were not as virtuous as portrayed. Moreover, allegations surfaced after Ed's death in 2006, accusing him of engaging in sexual relationship with an underage girl, and apparently Lorraine knew. So, who were the Warrens, and how did their reputation become so controversial? Well, here we go. Ed and Lorraine hailed from Bridgeport, Connecticut, both raised in the folds of the Catholic faith. Their paths intertwined in 1944 during their teenage years. By then, Lorraine had already embraced her purported abilities as a psychic medium, while Ed's fascination with the supernatural had deepened after growing up in a house that he believed to be haunted. After serving in World War II, Ed pursued art studies in college. However, his passion veered towards the paranormal, leading him to channel his artistic talents into exploring the unknown alongside Lorraine. Together, they went on ventures to allegedly haunted houses. Ed would sketch portraits of these dwellings, presenting them as gifts to the homeowners to gain entry. Once inside, Lorraine would often attempt to communicate with the spirits. Their reputation as demonologists and ghost hunters gradually flourished from these endeavors. In 1952, the couple founded the New England Society for Psychic Research. Currently, the New England Skeptical Society emerged in 1996, offering contrasting viewpoints and becoming one of the Warrens' most vocal critics. The emphasis on research lent credibility to the Warrens during a time when the interest of the occult surged. As their son-in-law, Tony Serpa, notes on the website, the Warrens became a beacon to those seeking assistance when no one else would lend an ear. Over their extensive career, the Warrens reportedly investigated over 10,000 cases of paranormal activity. Among these, several cases propelled them into the limelight, partly due to their adeptness at leveraging their involvement of their book deals and the publicity. For example, while the Warrens were among many paranormal enthusiasts who investigated the Amityville tragedy, they were among the most well-known, and their involvement is frequently mentioned in the prevalent pop culture narrative surrounding it. In case you didn't know, the horror unfolded in Amityville, Long Island, just before Thanksgiving in 1974. The residence at 112 Ocean Avenue belonged to the DeFeo family. Ronald, the eldest son at 23, confessed to the gruesome murder of his parents and 4 younger siblings. During his trial in 1975, DeFeo claimed insanity, stating that he acted under the influence of voices in his head. DeFeo was eventually convicted under 6 counts of second-degree murder and received 6 life sentences in November 1975. He passed away in prison in March 2021 at 69 years old. The house lay vacant until December 1975, when George and Kathy Lutz purchased it and moved in with their children. Despite having the home blessed by a priest, they seemingly encountered torment at the outset. George recounted to ABC News in 2002 how doors slammed. Unseen forces immobilized him in bed while his children's beds seemingly bounced uncontrollably, and his wife underwent a startling transformation and levitation. Just 4 weeks into their stay, the Lutz family fled, leaving behind their possessions. 5 months later, Ed and Lorraine Warren arrived to investigate. Ed was allegedly physically pushed, while Lorraine experienced haunting visions. The Warrens claimed to have captured a photo of a demon child in the basement, concluding demonic forces were at play. The Lutz family sold the house and relocated to California. The property changed hands several times, and no further reports of paranormal activity happened, according to the New York Post. The case would go on to inspire numerous movies based on the Warrens' investigation. However, the most real incident out of all of this was Ronald DeFeo Jr.'s murder of his 2 parents, 2 brothers, and 2 sisters. In truth, all the demonic manifestations that the Lutz family came to experience were possibly not real. Dr. Stephen Kaplan recounted the true narrative in his extensively documented book, The Amityville Conspiracy. As a parapsychologist, he had been invited by the Lutz family to investigate the events early on. However, when he stated that if he discovered a fraud, he would reveal it, the Lutz family fired him and promptly replaced him with, you guessed it, Ed and Lorraine Warren. Steve Kaplan was vindicated when William Weber, the DeFeo's lawyer, revealed later in the sworn testimony that he and the Lutzes made up the narrative about the demonic home over several bottles of wine. But surely the Lutz family did have some independent evidence or eyewitness accounts of the poltergeist events? Well, no. Nobody else saw them. George and Kathleen Lutz were the only ones who witnessed all of the demonic activity. According to the police records, the Lutz family did not even call for aid during the 3 or 4 weeks of alleged hauntings, though the movies and novels do state that the cops were called in. Theatrical, you know? In reality, every alleged demonic apparition that led the Lutz family to evacuate the residence was debunked. The supposed havoc wreaked upon the house, including doors and windows, were allegedly torn off their hinges or smashed. They showed no signs of damage upon inspection. Even the purported demonic footprints in the snow that materialized during a period when the weather records that there was no snowfall at all. Similarly, the small third-floor windows, said to have been cracked in the shape of a quarter moon, displayed no evidence of cracks or repairs. The infamous Red Room, believed to be a sinister dungeon, turned out to be nothing more than a plumbing access space. These discrepancies continued throughout the Lutz family claims. Eventually, the Lutz family even admitted that the entire haunting story was a fabrication. This was an admission that emerged during a series of messy legal battles. In one trial, their former lawyer, Weber, sued them for allegedly excluding him from a lucrative book deal, seeking a staggering $2 million in damages. Another trial ensued when the subsequent homeowners sued the Lutzes, author Jay Anson, and the book publishers for fraudulent claims of hauntings. They argued that these claims led to the invasion of their privacy, as curious visitors frequently trespassed on their property at all hours. Ronald DeFeo Jr., the murderer whose actions sparked the initial fascination of the house, denounced the entire saga from prison as a money-driven hoax. He emphasized that the only real aspect was the tragic murders, rejecting the notion of ghosts or demons. Furthermore, individuals falsely credited as witnesses to the alleged demonic events also threatened legal action against the Lutzes and Anson. Consequently, these individuals were discreetly removed from later editions of the book. Subsequent owners, like Barbara and James Comtree, reported to no supernatural encounters in the house. Their only issued statements from nosy tourists and bystanders was to deter unwanted attention.
Bystanders!
Bystanders!
That's a Selenaism.
Later, the owners even renumbered the house and altered its distinctive features. I'm thinking of those big windows, right? The supposed Amityville haunting has been frequently disproved and universally regarded as a hoax by almost everyone who witnessed the episode, with the exception of the Warrens, who insisted for years that Amityville was the most haunted area they'd ever seen. They benefited greatly from their dedication to the topic. They worked as story advisors on the 1982's Amityville Horror 2, a prequel about the DeFeo murders.
We should watch all those.
We should. And of course, The Conjuring 2, which mentions the Amityville investigation. Who doesn't know about the Amityville Horror House? Nobody.
Right?
What a money horse.
Big time, buddy.
Big time, buddy! Most significantly, Amityville's notoriety increased their visibility and established them as go-to authorities for all things paranormal. Even I've spoken to Lorraine. Several additional reported hauntings and exorcisms would go on to become inextensively linked to the Warrens. The 1991 made-for-TV film, The Haunted, we need to watch that, in which they play characters, is based on the account of the Smurl family, purported paranormal case, their best-selling 1992 book, A Dark Place, co-written with novelist Ray Garton, details their study into a supposed event that inspired the 2009 film The Haunting in Connecticut. That's a good one. On that occasion, the Snedneckers claimed to be seeing spirits of those whose remains had previously passed through the mortuary turned to home. Eventually, this led to demonic possession. However, according to a highly cynical interview, Garden alleged that he gave the Horror-Bound magazine, which was later republished on the Paranormal Studies and Inquiry Canada website, the Warrens not only knew the whole thing was a hoax, but also told Garton to invent whatever details he wanted to sell the story. As I gathered all the necessary information for the book, I found that accounts of the individual Snedneckers didn't quite mesh. They just couldn't keep their stories straight. I went to Ed with this problem. "Oh, they're just crazy," he said. "Everybody who comes to us is crazy. Otherwise, why would they come to us? You've got some of the same story. Just use what works and make the rest up. And make it scary. You write scary books, right? That's why we hired you. So just make it up and make it scary." Garton also implies that in that interview that the Warrens changed their expertise from ghosts to demons only because of the popularity of The Exorcist. Back when I was reading about the Warrens, they were ghost hunters. Every house they investigated had at least one ghost, and there was always a spooky story behind it. But after The Exorcist was so wildly popular as the novel, then the book, Ed and Lorraine stopped encountering ghosts and started to uncover demon infestations. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Then there is the famed The Devil Made Me Do It trial, which was the subject of the new Netflix documentary and the premise for the third Conjuring film, officially titled The Conjuring: The Devil Made Me Do It, in which the Warrens allegedly assisted in the exorcism of a young child called David in 1980. During the event, which took place during the early years of Satanic Panic, a participant named Arnie Glunton, the boy's elder sister's lover, supposedly challenged the demon to enter him, causing him to become possessed and then shoot and kill his landlord. Alan Bono, during the subsequent murder trial, the defense attempted to assert demonic possession. However, the court denied the defense, and Johnson was later found guilty of first-degree manslaughter. The Warrens left all that behind with another bestseller, the 1983 The Devil in Connecticut. This is all intriguing, to be sure, but the Glatzel family has since been bitterly divided over the events about David, who was 11 at the time, claims if he was truly possessed, and his elder sister married Johnson and lived with him until her death in 2021. Meanwhile, his older brother Carl has long maintained that his family staged and exaggerated the occurrences, while the Warrens enticed and encouraged them in the desire of their own fame and fortune. Yup. In 2007, he sued the Warrens, saying the book was based on complete lies and that the Warrens concocted a phony story about demons in an attempt to get rich and famous at our expense. The action, which was eventually rejected, alleged that the Warrens portrayed Carl's real-life skepticism as an enmity caused by his own demonic possession, a characterization that stuck with him ever since. In the new Netflix documentary, he even accuses them of driving his family apart. And on it goes. Every major incident in which the Warrens have been involved over the years was completely disproved, presuming supporting evidence was ever presented in the first place. In other situations, the Warrens claimed to have video or photographic proof that literally never happened. In one 1990 encounter, Ed Warren described a film I took of a female spirit who allegedly was wandering a gravesite. The film was never released, and the spirit was apparently created by a woman named Judith Penny, who was wearing a white bedsheet over her head. The counter-argument to all the skepticism essentially goes like this. The Warrens did profit from the books and the public appearances, yes, but they never charged for investigating cases. They gave some of the profits from their books to families impacted by the cases, and they didn't make that much money. They seem to believe in what they're doing, and if they did exaggerate, Plus, even the skeptics who investigated them commented on how nice they both were. Surely, they're nice people and they couldn't be scammers, right?
No.
Yet, underlying all of this debate and undermining all of the Warren supporters is a much darker cynicism surrounding who the Warrens were, particularly the difference between their public and private faces. Judith Penny, who is sometimes described as Ed's assistant or his liaison, was alleged that beginning in the early 1960s, Ed Warren, who then in his 30s, was grooming her. In 1963, when she was 15, Penny claimed that Warren moved her into the Warrens' house in Bridgeport and then commenced a full-blown sexual affair with Lorraine's full consent. That lasted a few years before Ed's death in 2006. Penny's alleged relationship with Warren came to light in 2017 via The Hollywood Reporter, which was critical of both the Warrens and the Conjuring franchise for continuing to valorize the Warrens and the allegations of Ed Warren's predatory behavior that first came to light in 2014. Both Warner Bros. And the Warren family have painted Penny as a vulnerable elderly woman being manipulated by bad actors into fabricating claims as a part of lawsuits filed by various greedy parties against the Conjuring franchise. Lorraine never commented on the allegations, and she passed away in 2019. However, there seems to be some proof. Penny was reportedly arrested for delinquency because she moved in with Warren, and her presence in the house gets a nod in the 1980 book about the Warrens, The Demonologist. That is one of my favorite books. In alleged grooming allegations sit to the core of the conflict surrounding the portrayal of the Warrens in both written accounts and pop culture. On one hand, the immensely successful Conjuring franchise, worth billions, thrives on an audience's affection for the Warrens as its characters. However, this affection is rooted in belief of their real-life purity and sincerity, a belief that becomes increasingly challenging to maintain as more details surface about their lives. Take, for example, Lorraine Warren's depiction as a devout, virtuous Catholic in the movies, often depicted as bravely confronting demonic forces. In reality, according to Penny's allegations, Lorraine was not only aware but also complicit in Ed's abuse. Penny further claimed that Lorraine pressured her into undergoing an abortion. Additionally, Penny alleged that Ed was both physically and verbally abusive to Lorraine throughout their marriage. Feminist author Jude Doyle condemned the portrayal of the Warrens as heroes, asserting that any glorification of them is reprehensible in the light of these allegations. In essence, the public's admiration for the fictional Warrens drives curiosity and scrutiny of the Warrens. Paradoxically, this increased the awareness, which makes it harder to sustain interest in the fictional portrayals. Nevertheless, Warner Bros. Continues to capitalize on the Warrens' legacy and the Conjuring franchise, but with some adjustments. And hey guys, those are some of my favorite movies ever. While spin-offs like The Nun and Annabelle have shifted focus away from the Warrens, they still serve as spiritual guides within the cinematic universe. As Bethy Squirrels noted, in the franchise balancing act between religious undertones and commercialism makes it a captivating subject for analysis. The Warren legacy, primarily upheld in their son-in-law Spira, extends beyond the mere religious beliefs. On his website, Spira captures the essence of the Warrens' appeal, highlighting their message in a world that often dismisses the supernatural. The fairy tale is true, the devil exists, God exists. But what stands out here isn't just the mention of devil or God, it's the reference to the fairy tale. Spira recognizes that the Warrens' story isn't just about ghosts or demons. It's about the romanticized narrative of Ed and Lorraine as devout truth seekers. This fairy tale isn't just about dispelling mental illnesses with holy water and Latin chants. It's about finding purpose alongside your spiritual partner in a world full of skepticism. This narrative, however, is a part of the illusions that the Warrens expertly sold. While their actions may have stemmed from deeply ingrained religious fervor, they had unintended consequences. As revealed in Judith Penny's claims and the documentary Devil on Trial, real people suffered from the aftermath of the Warrens' exploits. Carl, for instance, was portrayed as a demon-possessed villain in the warrant of the incident, simply because he insisted it was a hoax. Now, as pop culture perpetuates the myth of the Warrens, separating truth from fiction becomes really, honestly, increasingly challenging. Because we know things go bump in the night. We've seen it, we've heard it, I have. But that doesn't mean that in moments when things happen, my brain doesn't try to figure out if they're real or not. I believe a lot of what they saw, heard, and did was real. But I do believe a lot of it wasn't too. I'm so 50-50, but I'm Lorraine.
Hey, there was something real going on there, but they're actors too. Like, they amp up. You put on a show,
it's
still real.
Here's the thing. I respect Ed and Lorraine Warren. I think what they did was sick. Look what they've created from it. The thing is, ghosts are real, demons are real. Maybe a lot of the stuff they didn't. I feel like this kind of falsely really shits on them a lot. I think that there's a lot of spooky stuff out there.
You've got to watch too. It can go to people's head, right?
Mm.
So, they could have been doing real things in the beginning that weren't so insane, but then maybe they did start making stuff up in the end.
So, guys, in saying that, don't whistle in the woods at night. Don't cause yourself problems, and, Stay spooky. Hope you enjoyed the tea. I'm gonna get more tea. Bye. Furthermore, individuals okay, scroll down. You kept laughing.
You can't even see.
You know what? If you're mad at Ed and Lorraine Warren,
They're so fucking mad at me.
it's probably the demons in here. It's probably the real demons
No.
that Ed and Lorraine.
I'm fucking chilling.
Here's the thing.